What's up, Infected, and welcome to the Quarantine. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a game by the name of Dragoon from Lay Waste Games. Now, what is Dragoon? Well, Dragoon claims that it is an action strategy game of dragons, where all of the players are dragons trying to terrorize the local population into giving them tribute so they can amass and hoard just as much gold as they possibly can. However, there is a thief that's also running around the board, so they have to worry about the thief also amassing a lot of gold, because if the thief ever reaches 50 gold, then everybody loses. However, they also have to worry about their rival dragons trying to destroy the cities that are offering them tribute, or maybe scaring the population into serving them instead, or much worse. So let's go over to the overview, shall we? In Dragoon, the players are competing dragons trying to fly around the countryside and terrorize the local population into paying them tribute. Now, the ultimate goal is to try to get around this scoreboard one full time before any other player can. However, the players have to be quick about it, because the thief is also running around the landside trying to also collect as much gold. So if the thief ever makes it all the way around this before any player, all players lose. And this gets more and more difficult as the game goes on, because these towns slowly start to spread and they get, bigger and bigger. And then those towns wind up upgrading into cities, which produce more gold at the end of every round, but also have a higher chance of giving the thief more gold. To do this on a player's turn, they'll have 3 action points that they're allowed to take. Some of those action points, of course, would involve movement, but they may also involve moving on to an enemy-controlled city, removing their marker, maybe placing one of their own because they've shown that they are the dominant dragon, and that will net a little bit of points at the end of every turn. Or maybe they will just blow up that city or that town entirely, netting them a chunk of victory points immediately. Maybe a player moves into an enemy dragon's lair and steals gold directly from them. Or maybe one of the dragons locate where the thief is hiding and move into that space and rob the thief directly. But let's not forget the players can also play very nasty cards on each other to capture all cities surrounded by them. Or maybe every city they move over blows up. Or maybe it just allows you to teleport directly back to your base. Maybe you set up traps for rival dragons, or make their cities riot. Or maybe as a last-ditch effort, the dragons move into each other's space and just take chance and roll the dice to possibly send one of the dragons back to their base and steal a small portion of their gold. Just don't forget that you have combat cards to possibly perform a critical strike on your opponent to ensure victory. Just remember though, as the game goes on, the city gets larger and larger and more cramped, allowing single card plays to be so crippling as to completely change the board into one player's favor. But you have to be quick about it, because only one player can be the dominant dragon in the land and claim all of the riches for themselves. Alright, Dragoon. Well, when I was sent this game, the first thing I noticed when I pulled it out and opened everything up were these pieces, these solid zinc metal pieces. And I've got to say, these are awesome. The components in this game are incredible. Even the dice are metal. They've got such weight to them. They have a very satisfying heft as you move them around the board, and you set this in an opponent's layer, and it just makes that tink noise. It's just so satisfying when you look across the board and just slap it in their layer, and these components are outstanding. Then when you combine the weight of those pieces and all the metal with how just straight cutthroat this game is. It is a very aggressive, very mean, very, very cutthroat game that is gonna condense some people just into a singularity of spite and salt by the time the game is over. But it's all in good fun. But you have to know that this game is super, super aggressive. However, the game's not perfect. The game claims that it is an action strategy game. Action, definitely no contest. The game's super aggressive. You're blowing up cities, beating up dragons, stealing gold. Action, it's got down pat. Strategy, not so much. The game is super random. Most of what you're going to do, your turn can be summed up to a roll of the dice and do whatever the best option is at the time. Like, there's not a whole lot of planning ahead. There's not a lot of strategizing. It's do what's right now, because that's what's going to net you points. And you also want to go last because of this. So there's not a lot of strategy involved. It's very luck-based, and the biggest problem with that is in the beginning of every turn, you're going to roll the dice and see where new settlements are going to pop up at, and you do that a bunch of times. Now, because it is random, and in our case, most of the time, the cities weren't spread out evenly. They were usually centered around one person and with a couple cities peppered here and there. So what you wind up having to do is spend a whole bunch of turns getting all the way across the map, take those cities from that person, all the while that one person just gets to circle around right there and just collect everything. And in almost all of our games, the person that got the better luck with the city placements and everything usually wound up winning. And then, combat is a roll of the dice, and you're drawing cards, hoping you get the right cards, because that's the other issue is while that one player just gets to hang out right there around their little area and collect a bunch of points, they're also drawing the same cards you are, which those cards are insanely powerful. You can just gain every city around you or blow up every city you walk over. So you wind up using that with a couple cards that let you move faster and blow up half the board. But the player that's getting all these points also is getting those. So it's not really balancing, it's just the rich is getting richer. And that's a very serious problem. And the last issue we had with the game, aside from maybe the questionable metal dice, I'm not sure if they're weighted properly, but whatever, is the game, depending on your group, can be very prone to like a king-making kind of situation where I'm definitely going to lose. You made me mad a little bit earlier, so I'm just going to break all your stuff and let him win. And I don't know, I mean, other games kind of do it, but it seems to not stand out quite as much as this game because of how aggressive and how mean it is. And that could be a very big problem for some groups. Now, overall, I know it sounds like I'm bashing this game, and I know I say this in a lot of my videos, but I kind of am. That doesn't mean to say that I'm not going to recommend this game, because I am. The game is very, 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 very fun. It's just not a very good game, if that makes any sense. As a game, there's not much of a game. It's roll dice and do whatever's the best thing to do at the time. That's all the game is. But getting a bunch of friends together, maybe having a few drinks, the game is a blast. And we've actually pulled this out, I don't know, a dozen times, and we've had a blast every time we've played it, because we go in knowing that it's all luck. You go in knowing that you guys are going to have a grudge the rest of the night in the next game and the next game that you play, and maybe even a week later, you remember that time when you took out half my settlements? We still talk about stuff that happens in this game. My cousin, every time we play and I screw him over in another game, I just look him in the eye and go, remember that time when you blew up 6 of my cities in a single turn? And then I drop my piece down. So I don't want it to sound like I hate this game, because I don't. It's a very fun game. It's just not a very good game, if that makes any sense at all. So with that said, yes, I do recommend picking up a copy of Dragoon. It's very fun. The components are insanely good. The board is like a rollout cloth map. The tracking, the score tracker is like a sack for gold. The cards are, I mean, the cards have a linen finish on them. It's it's a good, fun game. Well, let me rewind that. It's a fun game. It's just not an action strategy game like it claims to be. Action, yeah, not so much on the luck part. Anyways, that is my review for Dragoon. I hope you liked the video. I'll see you guys next time in the Kwarenteen.